Canadian study permit requirements. Are you eligible? In order to study in Canada, you will need to fulfill the Canadian study permit requirements. But first, before you apply, you'll need to gain acceptance to a recognised school, university, or college in Canada. In addition, you will need to be eligible to enter Canada and will likely need a temporary resident visa. There are a variety of schools and institutions at which to study. Here are some examples. Primary and secondary schools. Students up to the grade 12 level learn at these schools. Primary and secondary schools are regulated by provincial governments. Post-secondary institutions. Colleges, universities and technical schools fall under the banner of post-secondary schools. The application process varies for each school as they can each have their own set of rules and they decide how much English or French education is necessary to be accepted. Private, career and vocational schools. Private schools are not always regulated by provincial governments. If you apply to a private school, ensure that it meets provincial education requirements. Language schools. Canada has many schools that teach either English or French as a second language. Language programs at public institutions are regulated by the provincial governments, but are not necessarily regulated at private schools. How to apply to a school, college or university. Once you select a school, college or university to attend, you'll have to learn about the specific application process that each school has in effect. Get in touch with the school in which you are interested and they will provide the details and the proper application forms. You can learn about the fees for applying and for tuition, health insurance, the cost of living in Canada, and information about language tests. Complete the application form and follow the instructions for submission. You'll receive a letter of acceptance if the school admits you. You need this acceptance letter when applying for a study permit. It is important to apply in advance of your course of study. For primary and secondary schools, it is recommended to apply at least 6 months early, and for universities and colleges, students should apply a year prior to the start of their program. Once you've been accepted, the following Canadian study permit requirements exist. You need to provide evidence that you can afford your tuition fees, your living expenses, the cost of return fare to your home country, and the living expenses and return fare for any family members that have accompanied you to Canada. You must have no criminal record or pose a risk to Canada's security. A police certificate may be necessary. You must be in good health. A medical examination may be necessary for this. And you also must assure an immigration officer that you will leave Canada once your studies are completed. Exceptions to the Canadian study permit requirements. You will not require a study permit if you are a foreign representative to Canada. Furthermore, if you are a family member or a staff member of a foreign representative, you may also be exempt from applying for a study permit. If you are a member of foreign armed forces, as a member of a foreign armed force under the Visiting Forces Act, you would not need a study permit. If you are interested in studying in a short-term course or program. If the course or program can be completed during your authorised stay in Canada, which would be 6 months or less, you would not need a study permit. You should apply for a permit before visiting Canada regardless of this, even if you do not need a study permit. Once you have completed your short-term course or program, if you are interested in continuing to study, you would have to apply for a new study permit. You could only do so outside of Canada through a Canadian visa office, which means you'd have to leave the country if you haven't arranged a study permit ahead of time. If you are interested in learning English or French, there are many opportunities in Canada, so how can you decide which classes are best? If you're looking for experienced instructors for English as a second language, we can point you in the right direction and get you on the path to communicating confidently. Just visit www.canadianimmigration.co.